Well, hey guys, it's hot out here. Yeah, it's hot out here. I'd rather be doing something else, but you know, I want to see what these tires are going to look like, right? Well, guys, I like to go out for a ride, but I still got to put the shocks on, and it's like way too hot to be out here. But I wanted to see what it looks like. It looks pretty good. Honestly, I'd rather be skinny dipping down at the creek, but that's another story, right? Alright guys, later on in the day, I'm going to roll the truck out here. It looks like I'm running wheel spacers in the front. Or is it a long travel kit? Yeah. But that's what it is. Yeah, so now I gotta put the shocks on it still, and I think I gotta set the toe on there. It does look different. Now I was out looking for some paint. Some of that Rust-Oleum hammer. Darn dogs. Hammer tone. Because that's what I used on the other Bronco on the top. Comes out pretty nice, but I'm thinking I don't want to change the color really. I would like it to match the wheels. That might look okay. So I'm thinking maybe I can get a black, because they got black, copper, silver, and something else. What if I mix a black and a copper together and just see what happens, right? So I went over to Home Depot, and there was a line out front. I don't want to stand in line. And Lowe's was easy to get in and out, but they didn't have the Rust-Oleum hammer texture, hammer tone, I think they call it. And then Ace Hardware, they didn't have it either. So anyway, that was just an idea. Have to do it at some other time, but yeah, that's what it looks like. Some pretty crazy wheels. The offset is a little out there, but... And the tires, man, I really like those tires. They're so much lighter than the ones I got on my truck. These are 6-ply, ones on the Colorado are 10-ply. I'm missing some hardware to install these shocks, yeah. Now I remember taking them off, and some of the hardware, like in the rear, wasn't the right. They were nuts and bolts, but they weren't the right ones. So, like I got two different kind here for the rear. These are for the shock studs, right? This is from the Ford factory. I went to the wrecking yard and got a couple, but now I don't remember where I put them. I need two more. It takes two in the front and two in the rear. I got two. What happened to those ones I picked up at the wrecking yard? I don't feel like going back to the hardware store. I went to 3 different hardware stores earlier looking for that paint. Beep, 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 right? So, anyway, let me let this delivery truck go. There he goes. So anyway, these are the front shocks, okay? 21.5s and 24.5s, okay? Long one and a short one. And then the rear, I went with the 30 inchers to give it a little more travel in the rear. I don't know how good it's going to work with them springs. Those are, what do they call them? Add-a-leaf. I think it's got an add-a-leaf kit because it doesn't have lift box. That's not so great. In the front, I could have gone with some longer shocks to give it some longer travel, but then, you know, at the same time, could have upgraded the coil springs like I got on my Bronco. Okay, and I probably could have gone with the longer radius arms, but you know I'm not going to keep this truck, so we'll just stay with the recommended shocks in the front, because you're not going to get a whole lot of travel out of those little radius arms. The longer radius arms there, you might get a little more flex out of there, but so yeah, you go 1 inch longer, I think, on these. Yeah, 23 and a 26, so 1.5 inches. So guys, I only got 1 set of shocks hooked up to this truck because I'm missing the hardware. So, but yeah, you can run 1. It's designed for 2, this particular model. If you saw back after I put the tires on, I bounced the truck with no shocks. Okay, you see it bounce? I was able to bounce the truck a whole lot easier because there's less resistance, because there's no shocks on it. All you're fighting against is the spring. You add 1 shock, you're adding resistance on there. So, I know some people think because you got 2 shocks it's going to ride smoother. Not really. You're stiffening up the front suspension when you add more shocks. And it all depends on valving and all that stuff. So, typically, if you're going to do some heavy off-roading, you want a stiffer suspension. Otherwise, it's going to be bottoming out when you hit them big bumps. You're going to feel more of the little bumps, unless you got some real specialty shocks like the bypass shocks and stuff like that. But yeah, so it'll run real smooth around town without shocks, but you're going to be bouncing all over. Just don't hit any big bumps. Stiffen it up with some shocks. That'll control. That's control. So heavy off-roading, that's why they came with 4 shocks in the front. Alright guys, so I just kind of dry fitted the other shock, the back shock. Okay, this is the driver's side, this is the front shock, this is the rear shock behind the front axle. This is the 21.5. That looks pretty good to me. It's only, the suspension only's got so many inches before it's going to bottom out, so this is pretty close right there. This one here is the 24.5 inch shock. Now I'm thinking I probably could have gone with a 26. You know, longer. But I got these dimensions off what I'm running on my other Bronco. Yeah, it'll work. There's nothing wrong with this. It'll work, but you might get a little more extension or droop, or whatever you call it. If you run a 26 and a 21.5. 21.5 looks like it's going to work out good, but the 26 could be a little longer. If you go longer on this one, on the shorter one, the shock's probably going to bottom out before the bump stops. So that's the only problem with running longer shocks. You can run longer shocks like this, but you got to remount them. Put some kind of hoop system where the mounting point is up higher so the shock don't bottom out, right? That'll work. This would be a good little daily driver cruiser here, right here. Just the way it's set up. Occasional off-road, you know. That's something I gotta do. I gotta hook up the front LED lights. There's no switch, there's no wiring for them right now.